Hi, we are on Park Avenue here in Montreal. I'm Stefan Christoff, and I'm here with Abdelali Essaouis, and we're producing this report for Concordia University Television, CUTV, that is looking at the Palestine Solidarity movement here in Montreal. This is, of course, a very important historical moment, not only in the city, but internationally, as people are taking the streets in communities, towns, and cities around the world to stand up for Palestine. In this report, we are going to be sharing 4 conversations that we recorded this evening here on Park Avenue with 3 educators, Michelle, Norma, and Vijay, professors at both Concordia University and at McGill. They talk about being on the streets at this historical moment, standing in solidarity with Palestine, participating in demonstrations, but also some of the ideas about the Gaza Solidarity encampments. I think this is important, right? To try to understand and have a little bit of a picture as to some of the politics and ideas that led to the creation of these encampments, of course, here in Montreal and university campuses, but also across the world. We also hear from Nael, who is a Palestinian here in the city, and talks about the importance of being at these demonstrations and being in this moment in solidarity with Palestine. This, of course, is an attempt to look at this moment. We were at an event this evening sharing reflections in relation to a small publication, a zine, that people contributed to. They had writings and texts about their participation in the Palestine Solidarity movement. So we recorded these interviews here on Park Avenue at Alternatives here in Montreal. Alternatives is the building you might know on Park Avenue where there's a big Palestinian flag. It's a non-governmental organization in solidarity with Palestine and many other human rights struggles around the world. So here is our interview.
Okay, so the Solidarity Encampment at McGill University was started by students from Concordia and McGill University together, really responding to the bigger movement across North America of students in university spaces using this particular kind of sustained long-term demonstration to meet, to make certain kinds of demands of the institution. So it started with this very well-known, the encampment at Columbia University. This very well-known encampment was the one that kind of gave the push to the encampments spreading all over North America, and particularly the one here in Montreal. And so the students decided together to start it at McGill because it's partly of the space and the way that the space works at the university, and around demands that were both sort of particular to here, but also very much in line with the larger demands of this movement. So the encampment particularly had 4. So they had disclose, which is to disclose the financial dealings and holdings that universities, McGill and Concordia, have with Israel and the occupation and the apartheid system leading to the current genocide. Those investments at McGill were more or less well-known and less well-known at Concordia. So that demand was really focused against Concordia, particularly the disclose one. Divest. So divest is the demand for the universities to take their money, the financial holdings that they have, out of companies complicit in the genocide in Palestine. In particular, they really honed in as the encampment kind of lasted, and they got more chance to kind of talk about those demands to companies that were involved in manufacturing weapons, and particularly very directly involved with the genocide. And that's something that is fairly well known, particularly at McGill. Of course, at Concordia it wasn't known because they hadn't yet disclosed, but they assumed, which we now know, that Concordia has similar types of investments like most sort of North American large kind of corporations and firms. So disclose, divest, declare. They wanted, they were asking for a declaration of condemnation of the genocide and a recognition of Palestinian liberation and defend. They wanted charges to be dropped against students who had protested on campus, students and other people who had protested on campus, and to defend the rights of all of us to speak out for Palestine, Palestinian liberation, and against the genocide. So, like, I'm a prof, and there were profs and other workers and people all over the community who supported the students in this encampment. So I think a lot of us felt like the encampment was sort of like ours too. Like, I think like people just from all over the city, community members, like all kinds of people got really involved with the encampment. And the encampment was something that really the students visualized, the students made, you know, they did it, and we kind of supported it. And, you know, they really, so you have these like local demands, the disclose and divest and so on. And I think it's really important to kind of point out here and remind ourselves that all of that and all of that effort is for Palestine. It's to put the light back onto what, you know, was happening then and is still happening now in Gaza particularly, but throughout Palestine. With the genocide and the ongoing occupation. And it kind of, as the encampment kind of lasted 74 days, which is a really long time, sometimes, you know, this can get a little bit lost in the story. And so really kind of, I feel like one thing that we worked on a lot and the students really worked on a lot was kind of trying to keep that focus back to Palestine and remembering what we were doing in this kind of protest. Because we did a lot of things. Like, it wasn't the only thing that we did. We did a lot of things.
Thanks. I think, you know, all the movement building that we've been seeing in the last 2 years, all the demonstrations, the protests, the actions on the street, the reappropriation of public space to make claims, to hold our governments, our other institutions, whether it be the university, the medical institutions, journalism, the mainstream media accountable. All of this has been critical. It's been critical because it's part of building up public consciousness, public awareness of the fact that not only are we witnessing a live stream genocide today, but that we are part of that genocide, that we are directly complicit, and to unpacking all of the ways that we're complicit, the multifaceted ways, one being, of course, arms, but it goes beyond arms. We have been providing political cover. You know, the complacency of our government officials in relation to this genocide. We have, at least in the university setting, also often witnessed things like memorandum of understanding with Israeli universities that are complicit in enabling this genocide, complicit in providing direct research that funnels into the military industry complex, in denying Palestinian history, which contributes to further dehumanizing Palestinians. And all these multifold ways, our mainstream media in not actually covering what we fortunately are able to see directly live feed from journalists on the ground in Palestine, in Gaza, and, you know, not giving adequate coverage to the extent and the horrors that that are playing out. So the movement building that we've been seeing in the last 2 years has been critical in calling out all of the different sectors of society here that are complicit and saying, we see what's happening and it's not going to happen in our name. We are standing opposed to this, and, you know, we are taking a stand. We're going to call you out, and we will continue to do this week in and week out until that, you know, complicity ends. And so that's one of the critical things, is building awareness, building the public consciousness, exposing the complicity, exposing it, the multiple ways in which we're complicit. Beyond that, it's so critical for building the foundations for the further work that's going to happen, that's going to need to happen. because unmaking settler colonial genocide is something that will be a generation in the making. The devastation that we've witnessed, it's going to take decades to undo what we've seen, right? Or to reconstruct some kind of foundation for life for people in Gaza, and to reconstruct our governments that have been, fueling this, right? And to bring those systems down.
Yeah, so the encampments, in general, but the encampment here at McGill, there were several encampments in Montreal. The encampments were largely student-led, and they were a way of promoting direct action to call out the administrations and the institutions for their complicity in funding the genocidal project, the funding through collaborations with Israel, through weapons, through the investment portfolios that they have with Israel. All of these things, it was a way for the students to come together and say, this is what we want to end. We want to end this, and we will not continue with classes, we will not continue with business as usual. Unless that happens. So that's how it was. I feel like the encampments here in Montreal, the McGill encampment in particular, was very, very student-led. It was very the approach was that students will self-learn in a way, learn the things that they need to learn, to teach each other and to teach others, the broader community, about why we must act, why we must do something, why we must learn about Palestine, learning about Palestine is the step forward to our our collective resistance, let's say. And to hold our institutions, the state, the government, accountable to its crimes, and also to link it to the territory where we are. I think what was special about the encampments here was the attention to the history of McGill University, the murdered and missing women and children's bodies that are buried underneath the university institution, and to show that the settler colonial project is one that spans geographies and is. And I think that kind of awareness by the students was absolutely remarkable. It was really inspiring.
I'm part of them because, Palestine's part of me, and that is, we live so far away, in a way, but we're also close. There's Palestinians here who are directly affected, who have family in Gaza. I'm somebody who has family in the West Bank, and there's many people in our community who are touched by this, and we live in such a atomized society where we can, and Montreal's kind of a small town and a big town, you run into people all the time, but the protests are a place where you can really have a community. You can see those same faces. You can kind of realize how much solidarity is there, because it is the fallacy of the silent majority. When people don't speak up, don't show out, you start to feel that you're alone. And people who are alone are very afraid to act. And if they do act, it might not be in the most productive way, because it's really driven by fear. So, it's meaningful to me, but it also just feels very natural. If I ever see a protest that I didn't know about for whatever reason, I'm just joining them. It's not that much of a question. Even if I was doing something else and I happen to be busy with my tasks of the day, I'll still join, because it just feels like a natural part of me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've heard a series of different voices. Thank you so much to Nael, Michelle, Norma, and Vijay for sharing their perspectives. This video report for CUTV that I produced, I'm Stefan Christoff, in collaboration with Abdelali Essaouis, is a report that is looking into the Palestine Solidarity Movement in Montreal. And hopefully what people shared gives a small glimpse, a little window into understanding the dynamics, the politics and the culture of a very important historical moment in support of the Palestinian people at this time of genocide in Gaza, and the importance of international solidarity at a moment like this. Thank you for watching.
So just in case, can you repeat?